I'll just answer the questions from here since I can't unmute my computer. So here we are.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate your adaptability. So yeah, absolutely extraordinarily impressive. That was very quick and extremely organized. So, all right. So first question, you made all these wonderful foods. And so this maybe, maybe what you did today, answers this question, but what does a cheat day on a whole food plant-based diet look like?
Well, here's the thing. When you eat a whole food plant-based diet, you don't need a cheat day because everything was legal, honestly.
Mhm.
For me, because I used to be heavy, a cheat day may be a little bit higher calorie density, like a little avocado in my sushi. But the food is so delicious. You get to eat so much of it. Why didn't you have a cheat day? Like, if you have a cheat day on your marriage? No, I mean, maybe you do. So, maybe
So,
we to
so yeah, I've often heard people on a whole food plant-based diet say that their bad is other people's good. So yeah.
Yeah, Dr. McDougall, who's on the panel next, he often talks about this because I'm a culinary instructor for his program, is that people that are doing the maximum weight loss, McDougall, when they cheat, they go to the starch solution. Like, you don't to because you get to eat so much delicious food in abundance. That's the best thing I think about this is if you call it a diet, so you don't have to weigh and measure your food. You can really, if you're not eating, especially if you're not eating oil, you can eat as much as you want whenever you want. Like, I cannot wait. Like, this is what I'm going to eat. Like, as soon as I'm not on the air, oh my God.
Looks phenomenal. Looks
Right.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
So in one of your books, you discuss the importance of whole foods. Can you explain the difference between whole foods and processed foods in the context of weight loss? And how is the processing that we do in our kitchens to make these recipes and other whole food plant-based recipes different than the processing done by the large companies when they make the processed food products that people tend to buy in the store?
Exactly. So there's a difference between processing and refining. So, in other words, Dr. Hans Deal used to say, eat food from a plant, not food that's manufactured in the plant. And so if I take a can of salt-free garbanzo beans in my food processor with lemon and tahini and garlic, I am processing it, but I'm not refining it. Nothing is being taken away. But can anybody here honestly tell me they can make maple syrup or agave or corn oil or olive oil? Things where everything good is removed, right? All the fiber, vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, antioxidants, micronutrients. So unless we have a garden and we pick up the carrot and eat it, most of our food is processed because somebody picked it and washed it and maybe put it in a bag. So processing, there's a difference between processing and ultra processing. So in general, with very few exceptions, like salt-free beans, some tomato products, if it comes in a can, a box, a bottle, or a bag, it's probably ultra processed. I mean, again, some exceptions, just sweet potatoes. So there's nothing wrong with you processing at home using some of these equipment, unless you want to just eat everything in its whole food form, that's fine. But it's the refining. It's when things are stripped and taken out, flour, sugar, alcohol. If you can easily make it in your kitchen, it's probably okay to eat. I mean, you could have, there's a gray area, tofu, tempeh, they're processed, but they're not highly processed. And that's something you could make. You could even make pasta in your kitchen. But can anybody really make white flour, white sugar, olive oil, coconut oil? So that's how I look at it.
All right, great. That's a great distinction. Thank you. So, obviously you made all these wonderful desserts today. What's the essence of making desserts without using sugar, oil, salt, gluten, and still making them satisfying and delicious?
The fruit, the whole fruit, nothing but the whole fruit. Right. Again, if somebody is completely addicted to the standard American diet and sugar, they may find my desserts not sweet enough, except the chocolate ones pretty much. But some of the lower calorie density ones, like the apple pie rice pudding. So the first secret is to get off the white powders, cocaine, sugar, flour, salt. Give your taste buds some time to neuroadapt to the subtle but delicious flavors of whole natural food, and then you will enjoy nature's bounty. So that's one of the secret, using fruits instead of sugar. I'm not against fat. I'm against oil. There's a big difference, because even if there's something good that you think you need in coconut oil, olive oil, flax oil, wouldn't it be in the coconut, the olive, or the flax? Again, it gets down to eating the whole food in its unprocessed form. So instead of using processed, highly refined, toxic oils, use the whole plant food that it came from. That gives you the mouthfeel. Avocado is delicious. You can do a lot of desserts. You can do chocolate mousse with avocado, for example. With gluten, I am gluten-free by necessity, but even before I knew I needed to be over 20 years ago, I always did everything gluten-free because it seems that no matter where you go, there's always one person that is. So why not make it so that they can eat it? Nowadays, it's never been easier because they actually make gluten-free flour. They make blends that are equal to substitution, like Bob's Red Mill, for example, where you can just use whatever you were going to do with white flour. Now it's in a gluten-free blend. There's so many things like almond flour, chickpea flour, things that either didn't exist before or we didn't know about. So the gluten-free really isn't the hard part because there's so many grains that don't have gluten. You know, obviously wheat has gluten, barley, spelt, the trichotilley, couscous. But think about all the grains, corn, rolled oats, rice, quinoa, teff, millet, amaranth, sorghum. There's probably more grains without gluten than grains with gluten. So the gluten part really isn't very difficult anymore for, or at least, well, it's not difficult for me. And what else did you ask? But yeah, so instead of oil, use fat. Instead of sugar, use fruit. And you know, for dessert, I don't worry so much about salt. I know some people do that, but in savory cooking, instead of salt, there's so many wonderful herbs and spices that you can get now, and even salt-free blends that didn't exist even 5 years ago. So you just got to be willing.
And with regard to salt, so you do use some salt in your cooking?
So okay, so here's what I do. People think I'm like SOS free, like Dr. Goldhammer. I'm O free, mostly oil free always, and I'm pretty much sugar free. There's one exception in my life because I love sushi and I can't find pickled ginger without it. But I don't cook with salt. But I have a salt shaker here. If somebody's eating here and they don't think it's salty enough, they can put it in. But with all these spices from local spicery, like bacon spice and pepperoni spice, and I don't miss the salt. I don't need the salt, but I have salt available if any of you want to come over to our potluck Sunday. If you live in Northern California, please join my meetup, Healthy Living with Chef AJ. We do offer you salt. I just don't cook with it.
Okay, great. And what's your perspective on the use of artificial sweeteners in weight
Ugh,
loss?
worse. That is the biggest mistake in research. If you go Google this PubMed, Medscape, people that try to use artificial sweeteners to lose weight usually are heavier than people that even eat sugar. First of all, and I saw the last presentation by Kim Murphy. It's terrible for your gut microbiome, number one. And all the GI doctors, whether they're plant-based or not, will agree that all the fake sweeteners like aspartame, and even the ones that aren't fake but that are processed in 0 calories, like stevia, erythritol, which has a lot of bad effects now that Dr. Greger talks about. These are terrible for your gut microbiome. They're highly processed. They're not found in nature, but they're really worse for weight loss. And Dr. Furman has talked about this a lot because you have taste buds on the tip of your tongue for sweet and salty. And so when you get a ripe berry, it's sweet. When you get a poisonous one, it's not. So then you know not to eat it. So that's a reward system on our tongue, sweet and salty. Well, the thing is when you get one of these 0 calorie sweeteners, whether it's aspartame or erythritol or any of the things that the sugar alcohols that end in OL or stevia, what happens is when your tongue tastes sweet, your brain gets really excited because that means calories are coming. But no calories come. You still get that insulin response. But what happens is these artificial and 0 calorie sweeteners are so much sweeter than sugar that you never are going to neuroadapt to these recipes. So they are far worse for you in terms of health and weight loss. It's one of the biggest mistakes people make. And to be honest, they're terrible tasting. The only reason people eat them is because they have this addictive quality, but they're horrible. I mean, give a diet soda to like a regular person. They're going to spit it out. It's toxic and it's just as addictive. So thumbs down all the way. As much as I'm not a fan of sugar, I would much rather see people eat sugar, maple syrup, agave than anything like stevia, erythritol, xylitol, any of those stuff. Thumbs down.
And if you can find monk fruit sweetener without erythritol, is that okay?
I don't know enough about that. So we'd have that would be a good question for Dr. Goldhammer. I don't use it because again, my rule of thumb is if I can't make it in my own kitchen, I don't use it. I can't make maple syrup or monk fruit. I can make date syrup. So for me, thumbs down. Sounds like it's expensive too. So nope.
Yep. All right. So with all of your interactions with the doctors that you've interviewed on your show, have you identified any nutritional advice that seems to be universal across the different doctors?
Well, yes, I have never, and I've done over probably 5,000 interviews now and 2,000 since the pandemic. I have never had one doctor or one guest on my show, whether they were vegan or not, that said eating processed food is a good idea. And even though the ones that weren't vegan or plant-based never said that eating processed and cured meats like bacon and deli meats and hot dogs was a good idea. So again, processed, that word comes up again. So I would say that's universal across the board, that we're not meant to eat processed food, whether it's animal products processed or this, it's hard being a 47-year vegan because they never really invite me at the Veg Fest, because guess what they serve at Veg Fest? All the processed stuff. And then I do this and it's like there's nothing for me to eat. And here I'm singing from the rooftops, eat whole plants, and people are saying, well, it's going to help people transition. But does it really? Does it really? Because there was no transitional foods when I went vegan. I think it just keeps people addicted to sugar, fat, and salt and stuck in the pleasure trap. So the universal things I get from all my guests that are doctors and not: processed food, either eliminate completely or minimize. So we were saying, what's a cheat day? Well, maybe that's a cheat day. But again, how many cheat days are you having,
Right. Thank you. That's a great answer. So, what have you found to be the most effective ways to lose weight and keep it off? And I just want to say one thing. Last year you spoke about the Hannah yam, and I love them and I eat them regularly, and they're a great way to satiate yourself, and it's great for maintaining a healthy weight, I
Oh
found.
my God, I eat them every day. So I wrote this book, and the first year here, I actually gave the talk about it, but this is really the secret to weight loss. And it's called Calorie Density. I didn't invent it. Dr. McDougall wrote a book about it called the McDougall Program for Maximum Weight Loss. Dr. Dean Ornish wrote a book about it, or based in the principles of calorie density: eat more, weigh less. I learned a lot of this from Dr. Barbara Rolls, a researcher at Penn State University. When you really understand and implement the principles of calorie density, you can eat twice as much food and take in half as many calories. So understanding that zucchini is 67 calories per pound and oil is 4,000 calories per pound, what is going to fill you up more? You can have 2 pounds of zucchini grilled or air fried for the same amount of calories as a tablespoon of olive oil. When you really understand calorie density and also implement it, it's hard not to lose weight.
Great. That's awesome advice. So can you share an example of a daily meal plan that follows the guidelines that you outlined in The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss?
Yes. Well, okay. So I don't eat breakfast. That's because I don't eat breakfast. It's not about weight loss. I never ate breakfast my whole life, unless Coke Slurpee is considered a breakfast. I don't get hungry till about noon. And then I eat my gigantic Hannah yam, which might have weighed 2 pounds before roasting. And then I eat about a pound of broccoli. And actually, I started at eating soup before. I used to eat salad, but now I eat this soup that I make. It's the recipes on my YouTube channel. I learned about it when I was recently at True North. And it's just this blend of Yukon Gold potatoes and zucchini, 5 minutes in the pressure cooker. Oh my God. Soup is a secret to weight loss too, by the way. Not clam chowder soup, but soup. Anytime you have water in the food, it creates bulk without calories. So soup is just, as a first course, is like such a secret to weight loss, but soup is also very satisfying. So that will be my lunch. My birthday was 2 weeks ago, and I'm being taken out to a SOS-free vegan restaurant tonight. So I'll be having probably a stir fry without oil. But like last night, we had deconstructed sushi bowls for dinner, which I'll be putting the recipe on my YouTube channel soon. We'll have, the night before, we had smoky butternut bisque with a whole grain and arugula on top. I make burgers. I love burgers, sweet potato burgers. And one of the secrets actually though is to batch cook. So if you like something, make more. Don't ever cook one potato. Cook a whole tray. Eat some, freeze some, refrigerate some, share some. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, rinse and repeat, any combination. And it's delicious, it's satisfying, it's affordable, and you'll save your health, the animals, and the planet.
And do you happen to know the name of that recipe for the Golden Yukon?
I know it by heart because I make it every 5 days. So it's okay. When you buy those little gold potatoes, at least where I live, the bag is exactly 1.5 pounds. And the zucchini at Trader Joe's is exactly 1.5 pounds, but you can weigh it. You put them in the pressure cooker with 2 cups of water, 5 minutes. When it's done, you take your immersion blender, and the Yukon Gold, it's so thick. And now I don't put any seasoning in, but you can put onion in it. You can put, I don't know, whatever you season it with, but it's so good. And they gave it to me at True North, and I fell in love with it, and I just make it every day because I love it. It's so good.
All right, that's awesome. So we've got a couple minutes left. So I'll ask you a couple of more questions if we have the time. So what are some of the common misconceptions about weight loss that you aim to correct in your book?
Oh, that you have to eat less. Because the opposite is true. If you're eating the right foods, you have to eat more, because if you are not satisfied, oh, you can lose weight in any method. You know, you can lose weight, cocaine, Ozempic, cutting your arm and leg off, eating less food. I mean, to me, this weighing and measuring nonsense is, I mean, it will work, but then you have to do it the rest of your life. When you understand the principles of calorie density, you can eat more and weigh less. So this idea, yes, of course, you have to create a calorie deficit, but you don't have to do that by limiting your food. You have to change your food. So instead of having oil and peanut butter and bread, you eat fruits and vegetables, whole grains and legumes. So you get much more food. You have bulk now, which is that feeling of fullness, activating your stretch receptors, creating satiety, instead of having little teeny tiny portions of this food. The problem is, most Americans are eating the most calorically dense food and not eating it in tiny portions. There are people that can do that, but if you like to eat, this is the way to go, because I would much rather eat this food in abundance than have little tiny, I don't know, whatever. So yeah, eliminating the oil is probably the biggest secret, because, I believe what Dr. McDougall says, sugar and salt aren't deal breakers for most people. It's the fat in the diet, especially the oil. When people get rid of the oil from their cooking, from the processed food, from eating at other people's houses and restaurants, 4,000 calories a pound. It's not food. And I know you have a speaker every year that sells it and loves it, but I don't think he's ever been overweight or a food addict, because, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. I even have a sign. They couldn't print it if it wasn't true. So, and your next speaker is Dr. McDougall. So yeah, we evolved at a calorie density, according to Dr. Doug Lisle, of about 700 calories per pound, which means our ancestors ate some honey and animal products. We did not evolve eating oil and flour and alcohol and sugar. You just eat the food in its whole food form, then you'll be fine.
Right. And we're about to wrap up. And just how would people get in touch with you?
Okay, so my email is help@chefaj.com. My website is chefaj.com. And every day, I haven't missed a day since March 19th, 2020, I am on YouTube live in the chat, and you can talk to me if you live in Northern California. I have events all the time, and that's about it. I thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was really, it was really enlightening and a pleasure to watch. So if we could unmute the audience so everyone can say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
Love you.
Thank you, Chef AJ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mother Nature